The scanner screamed. Not a soft alert. Not a warning chirp. A full-spectrum alarm that echoed across the coalition arena like something had gone terribly wrong. Guards snapped their weapons up. Energy barriers flickered to life. Delegates stiffened behind reinforced observation glass. At the center of the circular disarmament platform stood a single human. Captain Marcus Hale. Unmoving. Unimpressed. The scanner recalibrated. Ran again. This time the alarm cut off mid-pulse. Silence. A Varelian security officer stepped forward, his silver armor reflecting the arena lights in cold geometric patterns. "Scan results," he demanded. The technician's frills trembled. No concealed plasma cores. No gravitic blades. No micromunitions. No neural-linked weapon threads. A pause. No weapons detected. The officer's narrow eyes shifted to the human. "Remove the boots." They did. "Remove the belt." Done. "Gloves." Gone. Marcus complied without argument. Without tension. Without fear. The scanner ran again. Clean. The officer tilted his elongated head. "Human, where are your weapons?" Marcus rolled his neck slowly, like someone loosening up before a casual jog. "You already took them." A ripple of uneasy murmurs passed through the chamber. Behind the observation glass sat representatives from 9 major species. Militaries. Strategists. Analysts. They had summoned humanity because of a statistical anomaly. Across 12 separate recorded conflicts, humans retained combat effectiveness after total disarmament. Not minor effectiveness. Dominance. Even against physically superior species. It didn't make evolutionary sense. The Varelian officer gestured toward the arena floor. "You will demonstrate." A massive door at the far end began to rise. The sound of grinding alloy vibrated through the structure. Steam vented from pressure locks. 3 silhouettes emerged. Karud shock troopers. 8 feet tall. Reinforced exoskeletal plating. Secondary lung expansion vents. Electromoles humming with restrained lightning. Their kind was bred for frontline suppression. Engineered bone density. Redundant musculature. They carried weapons capable of shattering armored vehicles. The imbalance was deliberate. The coalition wanted proof. One trooper stepped forward, cracking the head of his maul against the arena floor. The impact left a dent. Marcus glanced at it. Then at the trooper. Then back at the Varelian officer. "That dent coming out of your budget?" he asked mildly. Several delegates exchanged confused glances. The officer ignored the comment. "Begin." The first Karud advanced. Heavy. Measured. Confident. Its maul lifted, crackling arcs of electricity dancing along its surface. Marcus didn't shift into an obvious fighting stance. He didn't raise his fists. He didn't snarl or posture. He just stood there. The trooper swung. A horizontal arc meant to cave in a ribcage. Observers leaned forward. Impact would be catastrophic. The maul cut through air. Empty air. Marcus had already moved. Not backward. Forward. Inside the weapon's reach. The crowd gasped. The trooper adjusted instantly, lifting a knee spike to impale. Marcus's hand snapped out, not striking. Grabbing. 2 fingers hooked into the joint seam beneath the plated wrist. A twist. A sharp metallic crack echoed. The electromole slipped from the trooper's grip and hit the floor with a thunderous clang. Before the alien could process the mechanical failure, Marcus stepped closer, too close for the Karud to bring its mass into play. A short, controlled strike landed beneath the thoracic plate. Another at the neck hinge. Precise. Not wild. The Karud stumbled backward. The arena went silent. The other 2 troopers advanced simultaneously now. No hesitation. No theatrics. The coalition had expected desperation. They were watching calculation. Marcus exhaled once. Slow. Measured. And for the first time, several delegates felt something unfamiliar. Not fear of human weapons. But fear of the human without them. The second trooper charged. The third flanked. The Varelian officer whispered under his breath. "What are you?" Marcus shifted his weight. And smiled. The second Karud didn't hesitate. It charged. 8 feet of armored mass thundered across the arena floor, each step sending vibrations through the alloy panels. Its electromole flared brighter, arcs of white-blue lightning snapping outward in jagged veins. The third trooper flanked wide, cutting off retreat. They were adapting. Coordinating. The coalition leaned forward behind reinforced glass. Now we see the limit, several analysts thought. Marcus didn't retreat. He adjusted his stance slightly, barely noticeable. His weight shifted to the balls of his feet. Breathing steady. The charging Karud swung downward with crushing force. Marcus stepped diagonally. Not far. Just enough. The maul struck the arena floor with explosive force, alloy buckling under the impact. Before the weapon could rebound, Marcus closed distance again. Inside the arc. Inside the danger. Inside the Karud's expectation. His left hand slammed into the alien's lower rib seam, right where armor plates overlap to allow expansion during sprinting. A biological compromise. His right forearm drove upward under the trooper's chin ridge. The Karud staggered. Not from pain. From disrupted equilibrium. Marcus pivoted, using the alien's forward momentum, hooking a leg behind it, stabilize a limb and twisting his torso sharply. The movement was compact. Efficient. The Karud's massive frame flipped sideways and crashed onto its back with a concussive boom that rattled the observation glass. Gasps filled the chamber. The third trooper reached him then. Faster than the others. Smarter. It didn't swing wide. It jabbed forward with the butt of its maul, aimed at Marcus's sternum. Marcus deflected with his forearm, absorbing and redirecting the strike rather than blocking it head-on. The force still shoved him back a step. The trooper pressed the advantage. Another strike. Low sweep. Marcus leapt over it, but not high. Minimal clearance. He landed inside again. Always inside. A sharp elbow struck the alien's neck joint. A knee drove into the hip actuator. A rapid heel stomp targeted the inside of its ankle hinge. 3 strikes. 3 structural disruptions. The trooper attempted to grab him, massive hands closing around empty space as Marcus slipped beneath the grasp. He seized the maul shaft. Not to use it. To leverage it. A twist. A torque. A downward wrench at a precise angle. The internal power conduit ruptured. The weapon died in a shower of sparks. The trooper froze for half a heartbeat. That half-second costed everything. Marcus stepped behind the alien's planted leg and shoved. Not with brute force. With alignment. The Karud's own center of gravity betrayed it. It fell hard. The arena shook. Now 2 troopers lay grounded. The first, the one with the compromised wrist joint, had regained its footing and roared in frustration. It abandoned its fallen weapon and lunged barehanded. Finally. A fair comparison. The coalition watched carefully. This was the true test. Unarmed against unarmed. The Karud swung a massive fist toward Marcus's head. Marcus ducked beneath it and stepped into the alien's chest space, driving a short punch into the sternum seam. Not enough to break armor. Enough to shock the nervous cluster beneath. The alien grunted. Marcus followed with a palm strike under the jaw hinge, snapping the head backward. Then he did something that made several strategists stiffen. He stopped striking. Instead, he wrapped his arm around the Karud's upper limb and rotated sharply, dragging the alien off balance while stepping behind it. A chokehold. Not crushing. Controlling. The trooper thrashed, trying to overpower him. Marcus tightened leverage at the shoulder joint and shifted his hips. The massive alien collapsed to one knee. Seconds later, flat on its back. Marcus stepped away immediately. He didn't continue. He didn't stomp. He didn't break bones. He simply created distance. All 3 Karud shock troopers were down. Alive. Breathing. Unable to continue. Total elapsed time. 23 seconds. The arena was silent except for the faint hum of emergency medical drones activating along the walls. The Varelian officer stared at the human. You avoided lethal strikes, he said slowly. Marcus rolled his shoulders once. You didn't ask for lethal. The officer's gaze hardened. You fought creatures nearly triple your mass. Marcus shrugged lightly. Mass is a factor. A pause. Not the only one. In the observation gallery, the high strategist replayed the footage from multiple angles. She slowed the frames. Zoomed in. Every movement Marcus made was economical. No wasted swings. No dramatic wind-ups. No reliance on strength contests. He had treated the Karud like physics problems. Not enemies. The strategist whispered. He never tried to overpower them. An analyst responded quietly. He never needed to. Down in the arena, Marcus stood calmly in the center once more. Hands relaxed. Breathing steady. Unarmed. The Varelian officer asked the question now echoing through every delegate's mind. What discipline is this? Marcus glanced up toward the observation glass. All of them. And somewhere high above the arena floor, something shifted in the Coalition's understanding. They had studied human ships. They had studied human weapons. They had never studied the human body. And they were beginning to realize that was the mistake. The arena floor was still dented where the first electromall had struck. The 3 Karud shock troopers were conscious, restrained only by medical stabilization fields. No permanent damage. No shattered bones. Just compromised joints. Disrupted leverage. Temporary neural shock. The Coalition had expected brutality. What they witnessed was restraint. Marcus Hale stood alone at the center of the arena, hands resting loosely behind his back as scanning arrays descended from the ceiling. Bright blue beams washed over him. Full-spectrum biological analysis. The High Strategist spoke from the observation chamber above. Begin audit. Data cascaded across the holo-displays. Skeletal density, elevated for species baseline. Muscle distribution, balanced. No overspecialization. Neural response latency, fast. Cardiovascular efficiency, stable. Genetic modification markers, none. Embedded tech signatures, none. The technician paused. Confirming, no enhancement architecture detected. A murmur swept the chamber. That's impossible, one delegate muttered. No species maintains that combat effectiveness without augmentation. The strategist did not look away from the screen. Continue. A closer scan of microtrauma patterns surfaced. Healed fractures in the knuckles. Scar tissue along the forearms. Compression adaptation along the spine. Ligament strengthening around the knees and shoulders. Repeated stress exposure. One analyst leaned forward. These are training adaptations. How long? Another asked. The technician recalculated. Based on bone density layering and scar maturity, minimum of 15 years. All eyes shifted downward to the human. The strategist activated the arena's audio link. Human Marcus Hale. At what age did you begin combat training? Marcus looked up calmly. 5. A visible ripple of discomfort passed through several delegates. Clarify, the strategist demanded. Play fighting, Marcus said evenly. Wrestling in school. Martial arts classes. Contact sports. Controlled sparring. He shrugged. Then more serious training later. The strategist narrowed her eyes. You train your young for combat. Marcus shook his head slightly. No. We train them for control. Silence. The Coalition processed that. Define control, the strategist said. Marcus tilted his head. We learn how to fall without breaking. How to strike without panicking. How to get hit and keep thinking. He paused. And how not to escalate. In the observation chamber, analysts replayed the fight again. Frame by frame. Every time Marcus had a lethal opening, throat crush, spinal snap, joint destruction, he chose disruption instead. Intentional limitation. A junior officer whispered, he calibrated force output mid-engagement. Another replied quietly, that suggests instinctive restraint. The strategist zoomed in on Marcus's breathing patterns during the fight. No spikes. No erratic surges. His stress indicators barely fluctuated, she said. An analyst responded. He wasn't fighting for survival. A long silence followed. He was demonstrating. The strategist turned back to the arena. Human. You were aware the Karud were heavier and stronger than you. Yes. You advanced into their striking range repeatedly. Yes. Why? Marcus gave a small, almost amused smile. Because distance favors weapons. The chamber went still. And when there are no weapons, the strategist pressed. Distance favors the bigger one, Marcus replied. So you remove it. The words hung in the air. An evolutionary historian accessed Earth's planetary file. High gravity. Unstable climate. Large predators. Frequent environmental hazards. A pattern emerged across thousands of human conflicts. Humans did not evolve specialized claws. They did not grow natural armor. They evolved adaptability. One analyst spoke softly, almost to himself. They don't rely on advantage. They remove it. The strategist's gaze hardened. Humanity was classified as tool-dependent. Marcus's expression didn't change. We like tools. A faint flicker of dry humor passed through his voice. But we train for when they're gone. The medical drones completed their scan. Final report displayed in bold. Subject displays no artificial augmentation. Combat proficiency derived from long-term adaptive conditioning and multidiscipline physical training. The strategist leaned back slowly. Your species practices this broadly? Marcus nodded. Millions do. Civilians? Especially civilians. The chamber stirred uneasily. A delegate from the Threxian Union whispered. They're all like this. An Earth diplomatic liaison seated near the rear answered calmly. Not all. A pause. But enough. The strategist replayed the footage one final time. Marcus stepping inside the first swing. No fear. No hesitation. No wasted motion. You were smiling, she said. Marcus glanced upward again. Yes. Why? He considered the question for a moment. Because you asked where my weapons were. A beat. And that told me everything. Silence. The strategist understood then. The coalition had assumed weapon removal equaled vulnerability. The human had assumed the opposite. She closed the audit session. Preliminary conclusion, she announced. Human combat capability is not equipment dependent. An analyst added quietly. It's preparation dependent. The strategist nodded. Update provisional classification. The holo display shifted. Previous label. Technologically moderate. Tool-oriented species. Under review. New provisional note added. Adaptive close combat civilization, high physical intelligence. Elevated baseline preparedness. Down in the arena, Marcus waited calmly. The strategist looked at him one last time before the lights dimmed. We misjudged you. Marcus shrugged lightly. You studied our weapons. A pause. You never studied us. And in that moment, the coalition realized something far more unsettling than physical strength. Humans didn't train because they expected war. They trained because they expected uncertainty. And uncertainty, across the galaxy, was everywhere. The emergency session convened within the hour. No ceremonial robes. No diplomatic pleasantries. No delay. The coalition strategium activated at full authority. Above the circular chamber, a three-dimensional projection of Earth rotated slowly. Blue oceans, white cloud bands, deceptively serene. The high strategist stood at the center platform. Replay engagement. The arena footage filled the chamber. Again, Marcus stepping inside the first swing. Again, the Karud collapsing. Again, that calm smile. The strategist froze the frame at the moment Marcus closed distance. Pause there. A red grid overlaid the image. This, she said, is the point of doctrinal failure. Silence. A military analyst spoke cautiously. The failure was tactical positioning by the Karud. No, the strategist replied evenly. The failure occurred years earlier. She gestured, and humanity's official classification file appeared beside the footage. Humanity, Coalition Record 771A. Technological capacity, moderate. Naval capability, growing. Biological threat level, average. Tool reliance index, high. Close combat risk assessment, minimal. The strategist let the final line linger. Minimal. She enlarged the biological data overlay from the recent scan. No augmentation. No enhancement. 15+ years of voluntary combat conditioning beginning in early childhood. A junior officer shifted uncomfortably. Most species avoid injury in development stages. Yes, the strategist said. Humans adapt to it. Another display activated. Earth evolutionary history. High gravity. Predator-dense ecosystems. Unstable climate cycles. Frequent seismic and environmental disruption. An evolutionary consultant spoke quietly. They evolved under constant stress variables. Not constant, the strategist corrected. Unpredictable. The chamber fell silent. Unpredictability was the most dangerous variable in warfare. Predictable enemies could be modeled. Unpredictable ones forced adaptation. She resumed the footage. Observe their decision-making under pressure. The holo replay zoomed in on Marcus's eye movements. Tracking. Calculating. Repositioning. No adrenaline spike. No emotional override. His stress response remained controlled, an analyst confirmed. Cognitive function never degraded. The strategist nodded. They do not panic when disarmed. A murmur passed through the chamber. Because most species did. Disarmament equaled vulnerability. For humans, disarmament triggered protocol. One of the elder counselors leaned forward slowly. You are suggesting that weapon confiscation may increase human lethality. The strategist did not hesitate. Yes. The room went still. Another analyst accessed Earth's military archives. Urban warfare. Asymmetric conflict. Survival training. Civilian self-defense systems. A pattern emerged. Humans trained across multiple disciplines simultaneously. Striking. Grappling. Improvised weapon use. Environmental manipulation. They were not specialists. They were generalists. One strategist whispered, almost in disbelief. They train for disadvantage. The strategist turned toward him. Yes. She magnified a specific frame, Marcus inside the Karud's reach. He did not seek superiority. He removed theirs. A silence heavier than any before settled over the chamber. A tactical simulation began running in the background. Scenario. Human vessel captured. Crew disarmed. Confined in holding facility. Projected outcome. Human resistance probability, 72%. Facility compromise likelihood, 61%. Time to disruption, under 48 hours. Another simulation. Human colony subjugated with technological suppression. Projected outcome. Organized resistance forming within 36 hours. A junior officer swallowed visibly. We classified them as tool-dependent. The strategist closed her eyes briefly. That was the error. A red banner appeared across the top of the human file. Reclassification review initiated. Previous. Biological threat level, average. Updated draft. Biological threat level, context dependent. Close combat risk assessment, elevated. Adaptive combat index, high. The elder counselor spoke again. If humans are broadly trained, then military personnel are only marginally more dangerous than civilians. The Earth liaison, seated quietly near the chamber's edge, finally spoke. We don't separate survival from daily life. All eyes turned toward him. He continued calmly. We teach children how to fall safely, how to control force, how to escape holds, how to think under pressure. A pause. We don't call it war training. The strategist studied him. What do you call it? He answered simply. Preparation. Silence. The Karud commander, watching remotely from his species' territory, transmitted a secure message into the chamber. We underestimated them. The strategist responded without emotion. No. She watched the frozen image of Marcus smiling in the arena. We underestimated what they consider normal. Another simulation alert triggered. A rival empire, the Dravex Dominion, had flagged the arena footage. Their response was immediate. Biological theatrics. Insufficient data. Recommend direct field validation. The strategist's expression hardened. They intend to test this. Yes, an intelligence officer confirmed. Militarily. The elder counselor's voice lowered. If they provoke a conflict. The strategist finished the thought. They will learn the lesson in a less controlled environment. She turned off the projection of Earth. The blue planet vanished, leaving only darkness above the chamber. Update coalition doctrine, she ordered. Effective immediately. New directive scrolled across the central holo display. Do not assume human vulnerability when disarmed. Avoid close-quarters engagement without overwhelming advantage. Recognize adaptive combat behavior under suppression conditions. Reassess containment protocols for human detainees. The final line appeared in bold. Never equate lack of visible weapons with lack of capability. The strategist folded her hands behind her back. Humanity is not biologically weaponized. A pause. They are biologically prepared. Across the galaxy, fleets shifted. Diplomatic channels tightened. And in a distant sector, the Dravex Dominion began mobilizing a task force to verify coalition conclusions. Back in the arena, Marcus Hale waited patiently for transport clearance. He had no idea a war doctrine was being rewritten above him. He simply stretched his shoulders once more and glanced at the dent left in the alloy floor. Someone from the coalition would have to repair that. He smiled faintly. Because the dent wasn't the real damage. The real fracture had occurred in something far more dangerous than armor. Assumption. The Dravex Dominion did not believe in warnings. They believed in verification. 3 days after the coalition session, a Dominion strike vessel translated into orbit above a small human mining colony on the edge of neutral space. Not a military outpost. Not a fortified world. A civilian extraction platform anchored to an asteroid belt. Minimal defenses. Industrial-grade equipment. 200 personnel. The Dominion commander reviewed the intelligence summary with visible contempt. Close combat species. Adaptive. Trained. He flicked a claw dismissively. They are minors. He issued the order. Deploy suppression field. Disable electronics. Secure captives. The Dominion vessel released a wide-spectrum pulse. Power grids across the mining colony flickered and died. Communications went dark. Docking clamps failed. Artificial gravity fluctuated. Inside the main habitat ring, emergency lights snapped on in dull red pulses. Alarms wailed. In Control Room 3, Supervisor Elena Ward steadied herself against a console. EMP surge, someone shouted. Primary systems down. Back up, she demanded. Offline. The station trembled as Dominion boarding pods attached to its outer hull. On the Dominion command deck, the commander observed calmly. Confiscate all tools, he ordered. Separate them. Disarm completely. He had studied the arena footage. He would remove every variable. Inside the station corridors, Dominion troops advanced. Energy carbines raised. Magnetic restraints ready. They found humans already moving. Not screaming. Not scattering blindly. Moving with purpose. A Dominion officer barked through a translator. Remain still. You are secured. A miner, still in dust-covered work gear, raised both hands slowly. Okay, he said evenly. Another human did the same. Within minutes, the Dominion troops had assembled over 50 humans in Cargo Bay 2. All scanned. No weapons detected. No powered equipment. No comms. The commander nodded from orbit. Proceed with transport. Then something unexpected happened. The cargo bay lights went out. Total darkness. A Dominion trooper activated night vision. It flickered. Interference. Report, the officer snapped. Internal power fluctuations. The sentence cut off with a grunt. A heavy metallic crash echoed through the bay. Another trooper fired blindly. The bolt struck a wall. In the darkness, a human voice spoke calmly. Stay low. Not a shout. A direction. Dominion thermal scanners lit up with motion. Too much motion. The humans were not clustered. They were spreading. Closing. A trooper swung the butt of his rifle toward a heat signature. His arm was seized mid-strike. A sharp twist. The rifle clattered away. Another trooper attempted to fire. A crate slammed into him from the side, pushed with coordinated force by 3 miners who had been working in zero-G environments for years. Gravity fluctuated again. Half the bay lifted into partial weightlessness. The humans adapted instantly. They were used to unstable footing. The Dominion troops were not. A miner kicked off a cargo container and tackled a soldier mid-air, rotating to slam the alien against the ceiling before both drifted downward. In Control Room 3, Elena Ward crouched beside a manual override panel. Gravity cycling in 5, she muttered. She pulled the lever. Gravity surged back to full strength without warning. Dominion troops crashed to the deck. Humans bent their knees. Absorbed the impact. A Dominion officer roared. They are unarmed. A miner answered from somewhere in the dark. So are you. More weapons hit the floor. Not from superior strength. From superior positioning. From teamwork. From training no Dominion intelligence file had accounted for. Human cooperation under stress. In orbit, the Dominion commander's confidence began to crack. Deploy reinforcements. Boarding Bay 3 reports resistance. Boarding Bay 5 compromised. How? Below, in Cargo Bay 2, Elena Ward stepped into the emergency lighting glow. She raised her hands calmly toward the remaining Dominion officer. We don't want to kill you, she said evenly. You're trespassing. The officer lunged. She sidestepped, hooked his arm, and redirected him into a cargo rail. He collapsed. She didn't strike again. Minutes later, the Dominion troops were disarmed. Bound with industrial restraints. Alive. Confused. Above the colony, Dominion command screens filled with cascading alerts. Boarding teams neutralized. Weapon signatures offline. Transport routes compromised. The commander stared at the feed. They were civilians. A junior strategist answered quietly. Yes. An incoming transmission cut across Dominion channels. Coalition signature. The high strategist's image appeared. We advised against this, she said calmly. The Dominion commander bristled. They are minors. Yes, she agreed. Humans. Silence. Back on the station, emergency power stabilized. Lights returned fully. The captured Dominion troops were seated along the cargo wall, guarded by unarmed miners. One Dominion soldier stared at the human beside him. You trained for this? The miner shrugged. I play recreational grappling twice a week. Another added from across the bay. And low-gravity football. Laughter rippled lightly through the humans. Not mockery. Relief. Elena Ward activated the external broadcast channel. This is Meridian mining platform. Dominion boarding attempt neutralized. No fatalities. Request diplomatic clarification. The message spread quickly. Across the coalition. Across the Dominion. Across every species watching. The High Strategist updated the human file one final time. Humanity, strategic tier civilization. Engagement protocol, avoid provocation. Containment risk, severe under suppression conditions. Primary trait, persistent adaptation. She closed the file and spoke quietly to her advisors. They train for when weapons fail. On Meridian Station, Elena Ward looked down at a confiscated Dominion rifle lying on the floor. She nudged it aside with her boot. Guess they thought we needed those. A nearby miner smiled faintly. Everyone does. Across the galaxy, one lesson settled like gravity. You can disarm a soldier. You can't disarm preparation. And you definitely can't disarm a species that expects uncertainty.